famously prone to overexploitation.
Who really is the most dominant predator on Earth, us or the sharks? By killing over 250 million sharks a year, the answer is clear. It is not the shark, but the human race that is the most ferocious of all living creatures. On Isla Mujeres, a small island off the coast of the Yucatan Peninsula, the local fishermen have realized they must fish in a responsible manner in order to protect the populations of sharks off their coast. Legendary underwater cinematographer Ramon Bravo has proven to be a major factor in this successful equation through his interaction with the fishermen of Mexico. From his home in this tiny fishing village built upon the island's rugged shorelines and white sand beaches, this man has become Mexico's most respected marine life filmmaker. With more than 250 episodes of the underwater world of Ramon Bravo seen on Mexican television, Ramon has dedicated his life to educating his countrymen about the conservation of their wildest resource, the ocean. Ramon's interest in the sea began at a very young age when he first made a name for himself as a swimmer at the Helsinki Olympics. His affinity for the water led him to experimenting with early scuba equipment, and he began to photograph and write about the creatures of the sea. This hobby soon developed into his lifelong career as a documentary filmmaker, where he's delivered his message of preservation and respect for the marine environment ever since. His driving interest and concern for the shark has been a theme for many of his films throughout the years, but in 1982 his career was nearly ended by an attack.
Filming a movie called Blood in the Caribbean. The moment I entered the water, the shark was all over me. I felt the pool, but no pain. Luckily, my crew were filming behind the scenes. When I saw the blood in the water, I realized that I had been attacked. If the shark swam away, I immediately headed for the safety of the boat.
The perpetrator of this attack was a 10-foot bull shark, implicated by the International Shark Attack File as the third most dangerous shark in the world.
As I tried to get out of the water into the boat, my right arm collapsed. This was my first indication that I was in serious trouble. I needed help and had to be lifted from the water. Then we saw the blood, lots of it. It was streaming down my legs from under my suit. It was like a nightmare, trying to remove the binding wetsuit. And to my utter shock, I saw that the bones on my elbow joint were completely exposed. Immediately, one of my crew members applied a tourniquet. Blood was gushing from the wound. Manuel, my assistant, called ahead on the radio to the hospital, informing them that I had been attacked by a shark.
With a severed artery and losing massive amounts of blood, Ramon lapsed into shock within minutes of the attack. Upon their arrival at the dock, the ambulance rushed Ramon to the hospital.
15 minutes after the bite, I was in the operating room for 4 hours. Luckily, everything turned out fine.
Thanks to the rapid response of his crew and adept reconstruction of his severed arteries and tendons, Ramon recovered fully from this attack. Today, fishermen from all of Mexico look to Ramon to educate them about the vital role that the shark plays on the marine ecosystem. In recent years, there has been an alarming decline in the shark harvest on Isla Mujeres. Ramon explains to Pepe that marine scientists are worried because fishermen are killing approximately 250 million sharks a year. He asks him if he has noticed a change in the shark fishing here in Isla Mujeres, and if he can still fish in the same areas with the same results. Pepe replies that the local fishermen are not catching as many sharks as they once did. Where they used to fish only 5 miles from shore, now they must go as far as 10. Years ago, they could easily catch 20 sharks in a week. Now they're lucky if they catch 4 or 5 in that same amount of time. Inevitably, there are those days during the week when they dread the trip home, for they will return to their families empty-handed. Pepe is sure that the number of sharks has definitely decreased. He tells Ramon that here on the island there have been fishermen who have caught sharks with only a tail and no fins. He wonders who could do such a diabolical deed. Where do they come from? No one knows. Do they come from the Pacific? Or did the Japanese do this? Crude by modern fishing standards, the fishermen of Isla Mujeres lack the funds for today's high-tech equipment. Their lines have changed very little in a generation, and many of their boats have been passed down from father to son.
The lines we use for fishing sharks are not miles and miles long, like in other parts of the world. Instead, we fish in a more primitive manner. Our lines only have 40 to 50 hooks and are not long enough to fish deep in the ocean. Years ago, we would get many sharks in a week. Now we only get a few. That is because in other parts of the world, they fish for sharks in a more sophisticated manner, and that has affected us here in our country.
The fishermen of Isla Mujeres do not have the opportunity to benefit from mechanized winches and multi-million-dollar boats. The primitive manner in which they catch sharks may at first seem brutal, but in reality their methods are more conducive to sustaining both themselves and the populations of sharks in the area.